speaking right now. I am recording. Today I'm recording the math homework answers for assignment 1.4. We'll be going over our math homework assignment 1.4 today. And pro tip on all these math homeworks, these are what you're going to be finding in today's math quiz. So a lot of the stuff that we're doing in math homeworks from 1.1 all the way up to now will be things that you're going to be seeing on your quiz. So these math homeworks are actually really good cheat sheets for your quiz. You'll know what to do if you have your math homework saved in your box, then you'll be able to look at them. I'm going to let in another person here just to make sure we got everybody on board. So welcome aboard, Aiden. If you guys are having technical issues and you get booted out and you need to get back on later, just remember I'm recording this. You can also look up the answers. If you want to do it by yourself, I won't be there telling you how to do it, but you can look at it on there just to see the answers that way. Or you can also watch the video and I'll explain things. Right now on your homework, you should have the page that says practice on it. Where it says practice, I want you to look, and we're going to keep comparing the answers here where it says shade the model. I did want you to shade the model for this number 1, number 2 are the ones I wanted you to shade the model. That means I wanted you to draw the model and shade it if you weren't able to print it out. I did tell you, though, that if you were not able to print it out, which a lot of us can't, and that's okay, you didn't have to take the 1,000 block challenge here and shade those in, because that's really, really hard to do. So I'm just going to ask to remind you again, you did not need to shade those 2 in. Just the ones that you were able to print out in number 1 and 2 if you. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at these answers. For numbers 1 and 2, you should have done the following. You should have shaded separate parts. Boys and girls, if you're coming on in, make sure you're muting your microphone just to keep any background noise that's coming on in. So take a look at your mic, make sure it's muted. That way we don't have a lot of background noise. It just helps to hear what's going on. All right. So on number 1, we have 7/10, and I want you to write the word form like this. 7/10 down here. Also, make sure that you have a 0 and a decimal and the number 7. I want all those things on that answer to make sure that's correct. On number 2, I want you to make sure that you shaded 62 hundredths on the hundredths model, or if you needed to draw it, I wanted you to draw that one. To do the word form, I want you to really attend to the spelling and make sure you have a hyphen between 60 and 2. Since it's under 100 and more than 20, I want that hyphen in there. The next thing I want you to do is spell the word hundredths correctly. So, oops, a little shaky on the pen here today. So I want to emphasize that that THS. Make sure you have that in there because it's not hundreds, it's hundredths. So I kind of exaggerated because I want you to know you need that THS. Next thing is I want you to show me 0 and 62 hundredths. And I really want to make sure that you have that 0 before the 62 hundredths. That 0 shows me that it's a decimal and not just 62. I also want to make sure you have that decimal dot as well. Okay, now on number 3, you did not have to do the shading in here on this part. If you printed this out or you felt like, wow, Mr. Yates, I can do it. I can draw 1,000 cubes. Great. Make sure you shaded in 91 of them. But again, you didn't have to do that. I did want you to do this, though. I wanted you to make sure that you have 91 thousandths. Make sure you have that hyphen between 90 and 1 because 91 is less than 100, so you put a hyphen between the number. Then you're going to add thousandths and make sure you have that THS at the very end. That's really important because, again, it's not thousands place. Your decimal should be 0.91, 0.091, so 91 thousandths. Check to make sure you have a 0 in the tenths place, boys and girls, because that is empty. Making sure you're checking all of your answers, boys and girls, and correcting them if they're wrong. So if you got something that's not correct, like spelling or hyphens or thousandths at the end there, THS, make sure you fix it. For number 4, we're also going to not shade in those blocks, but if you did, you shade in 75 of them. Your number 75 needs to have a hyphen between the 70 and the 5. Thousandths needs that THS. And then we also want to have 0 and 75 thousandths right here. Pay close attention to having a 0 before the decimal. You always need that when you're writing a decimal. All right, let's move on down. Here we're going to go over each one of these decimals. I want you to check mark each one that you have correct. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're doing here too. I want to make sure that you guys can see what I see better. All right, let's take a look at our answers here. Our answers here, we're going to take 15 over 100. That's 15 hundredths. 129 is 129 thousandths. Again, make sure you have a 0 and a decimal at the beginning. 17 hundredths is right here. Make sure your 7 is in the hundredths place. 8 tenths, you just need to have the 8 right after the decimal in the tenths place. Thousand is 815 thousandths, so the 5 is in the thousandths place. 2 tenths, the 2 is in the tenths place. And again, make sure you have a decimal between the 0 and the 2 so that you don't mix it up with a whole number. Okay, we're going to move on down. Problem solving. I'm not really very good at writing with this on the pen, but I would like an answer sentence for this as well too. We don't have one. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to read it out loud, and then I'd like someone to read it to me as if they put in an answer sentence. The answer sentence will be based on this. So I want you to pay attention to that question while I read it to see what the answer sentence should be. So I'm going to ask someone at random to read me their answer sentence. I do see a hand up. Could you go ahead and just tell me your question?
Could you go back up to 5, 6, and 7?
What happened, Henry?
Huh?
What happened, Henry?
I was going to the bathroom.
Okay, I'll tell you what. What we'll do is I will leave this after I go through all of them again. At the very end, after we go through these, I'll show the top part of them. And you can also take a look at those. We'll finish these up, and then we'll go ahead and I'll show you the top of them. Okay?
Okay.
All right. And let's go ahead and mute our microphone, and let's go through that. Could you tell me an answer sentence, please? Ariana, do you want to tell me your answer sentence for, out loud. Hold that thought, Ariana. I'm going to read the answer sentence, or read the question, then give me the answer sentence. Trudy is making a picture frame and needs nails that measure 375 thousandths of an inch. At the hardware store, nails are measured in fractions of an inch. 125 thousandths of an inch, 25 hundredths of an inch, and 375 thousandths of an inch. Which of these nails should she buy? So go ahead and, well, how did you say this in the answer sentence? Sorry.
Trudy should buy you should say Trudy should buy blank inch nails.
Perfect. Trudy should buy blank inch nails. Make sure you have an answer sentence there, kind of like that, so that you have that on this part. The correct answer here is that Trudy should buy, and let me show you what I would say here. Trudy should buy, 375 over 100th is our fraction, inch nails. You also want to have the word Trudy on here. You could also say she, and also want the words buy in there as well too. So make sure you have all those in there, boys and girls. Jace P, you have a question?
It'd be wrong if I didn't put nails.
The big question here, though, is since it actually says which of these nails should she buy, make sure you add that in there. So go ahead and just fix your answer sentence now and make sure you include the word nails in there. That's going to help you to make sure your answer sentence is more accurate. Maisie Bacon, you have a question?
I wrote Trudy should buy 375 375 and wait, 375 thousandths inch nails because I'm really bad at saying these things, but because 375 thousandths in decimal form is 0.375.
A nice explanation, Maisie. Good job. Let's go on down to number 12. It rained 16 hundredths of an inch on Tuesday. Write this amount as a decimal and a fraction. So what we're going to do on this one is we're going to write it this 16 hundredths right here and turn that into a decimal and a fraction. It's such a freebie when they say it, write it out like this as 16 hundredths. It pretty much tells you how to write it as a decimal. You take a 0, a decimal, you place the 1 in the tens place and the 6 in the hundredths place. So it becomes 16 hundredths. And since you know it's 16 hundredths, the fraction's pretty easy to do too. 100 is the denominator, 16 is the numerator because this is the hundredths place. So make sure you check mark that you have 16 hundredths as a decimal and then 16 hundredths as a fraction like you see on your screen. Henry, what's your question?
Oh, sorry, I thought we were on a different question. I thought we were on question 13. Seems like you also have to add the word form.
Glad you're staying on point with this one. Yeah, we'll take a look at number 13 right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at that next 13. That's our brain builder. At Richardson Elementary, 35 hundredths of the buses were late because of a snowstorm. Write the fraction, decimal, and number and word form of the buses that were not late. And this is the brain builder part of this. Right here is the words that a lot of us might not have noticed. It said the buses that were not late. In the problem, it says the buses were late 35 hundredths. So what we needed to do is we needed to take 100. Oops, let me write it in pencil form. We needed to take 100 and subtract 35. That'll get us the number of buses that were not late. So if you actually end up putting 35 over 100 here and 35 hundredths and 35 hundredths as word form, that's a reading error because, and this is kind of tricky sometimes with these brain builders, they wanted you to know the buses that were not late. So you needed to do a little bit extra work on this to make sure you found that. So if you wrote something different than these answers, put down reading error because you might not have read that part. Abby?
When we're all done with all of these, can we take a 2-minute stretch break?
You know what we'll do is I'm going to leave these open. I'll take a little break and then so Henry and everyone else can look at those first few answers and then we'll get back onto starting our quiz. But I want to get started with our next part now, Abby.
Wait, are we going to keep the meeting on and then take a break?
Abby, yes, we are. We're just going to do a little break to let you guys walk away and then we're going to come on back. But let's pay attention to our brain next part. I'll make sure we go over these answers. So take a look right here. I want you boys and girls to look. We're going to have 65 over 100 as a fraction, 65 hundredths as a decimal, and make sure that hyphen is there between 65 and hundredths. Make sure those are all correct. And let's go on down to test practice. All right. Test practice. Which of the following does not represent the number given by the model? And this is again where they try to trick you. All of these other ones here exactly match the model. They all show 4/10, but again, they're trying to trick you here because they said the word does not represent. And the only one that does not actually show 4/10 in this one is 40/10. 40/10 is actually the number 4. So that one actually is the correct answer because it does not show this model. So if you got tricked on that one and maybe you put A, C, or D, put reading error because you didn't see that word not. If you did, then you got this one correct. And good job. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you, let's give you 3 minutes to stand up and stretch. At 9:20, I'm not asking you to leave the meeting, but I'd like you to go ahead and you can stand up and stretch. And for this few minutes here, while we're standing up and stretching, I'm going to show Henry and anybody else who might have missed the first part here of the homework, a chance to look at those answers. So we'll go ahead and do that. So at 9:20, I'm going to resume the meeting. So stand up, take a stretch, get a drink, but come back at 9:20. Don't leave the meeting because we're going to continue it on. And Henry and everybody else who was not present for those first few ones, let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit so you can see the answers a little bit easier. Aiden, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just want to say 40/10 is in a decimal is actually 4.0, I believe.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's why it doesn't represent the model. It actually shows, like you said, the number 4. So in 2 more minutes, boys and girls, we're going to come on back. I'm just going to take a little stretch myself. I'm still right here, but I need to stand. I'll tell you, in the real classroom, Mr. Yates does not sit this much, and you don't either. Getting up. So
Mr. Yates,
walk around. Henry, what's your question?
could you scroll down a little?
Sure. Do you want to see after number 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me show you the rest ones right there. You should be able to see the additional ones right now.
Thanks.
Welcome. Okay, we have 1 more minute left, and then we're going to move on to our next part of the agenda, which is where we're going to be starting our quiz. I just realized some people were out of the meeting, so I'm going to bring them back in. And I forgot to stop this recording, so I'm going to go and stop that right now.